Ray Harris, coming to you as the guest host for the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeartRadio station. I am sitting in for Roman for the next couple of Mondays. So, for his fans, give me a chance, give me a try, as he's known me for some years when I previously hosted after him on the Straight No Chaser show. And now I host the day before him with my guest tonight on the Quintessential Queen show. So, without any further ado, let me introduce you to the fantastic, as I said, co host of the Quintessential Queen show, but even more than that, the nurse extraordinaire, the speaker extraordinaire, and the life changing agent, Miss D. Sutton. How are you?
How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome that we are here together. Usually we are in the reverse seating.
We are. Usually I'm in this chair.
And I'm in that one. So I'm really happy to be here with you tonight to interview you. So we're going to start off slow and we're going to build up
Like
like a rolling downhill.
started slow and easy.
So
Then
you
we
all already
move
see how
right
we
into it.
operating. We are having a good time.
I thank you for that introduction. I'm humbled and I'm excited and
That's right.
thank you. It's been many years that I have been the nurse extraordinaire. I like that. I think I'm gonna start calling myself
I think you
that.
should put it on. We're gonna put that on the right here
Put
on the
that on
name
my
tag.
shirt.
That's right. Now let's give a little bit of background about you. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised right here on the west side of Chicago. That's where I was born and
See,
raised. Been here all my
see
life.
the West Side.
That's
Hey, wait, and for those of you that know me, you know I've always been Southeast, but okay, that's all right.
I am west side.
To
Born and bred.
born and bred.
Born and
What
bred.
community?
Well, we grew up in like a couple of communities because my grandmother lived right off the Ave, which is Chicago Avenue for you all who don't know what the Ave is. She stayed on Ridgeway.
Okay.
I had an aunt that stayed a couple of blocks on Trumbull. So we were there all the time, right off Holman and Chicago Avenue, St. Louis, Springfield. You West Siders know the streets I'm talking about.
That's right.
But
You know.
we lived in Humboldt Park, where there were a lot of the Hispanics are in Humboldt Park.
Right.
And between them and Logan Square. So we grew up over there. And then we also grew up right over there in our community. So we kind of had the best of both worlds.
Well, now let's talk about in doing the West Side lifestyle. Where did you go to high school? Because for those of you that are not from Chicago, when you meet someone here, typically the first question after, what's your name is, what side of town are you from? And then it's the third question. What high school did you
What high
attend?
school did I attended? Carl Schurz High School. Bulldogs. Hello to my Bulldog
Bulldogs. All
fans.
right.
Yeah, I
There
was.
we go.
Now Carl Schurz is like Northwest. It's not technically West Side, but it's Northwest, and a lot of people from a lot of neighborhoods went there. It was truly a melting pot school back in the time when I went, when dinosaurs were roaming around. So, so it was truly every ethnicity was in there, every culture was in there. And I learned a lot by going there about people and culture and learning how to speak and learning how to express our artistry. We were really encouraged to do that there. So I always give Carl Schurz a big ups for that because
Okay.
I was in drama and that taught me to speak my mind and not to be afraid to speak up for me. Did wonderful things writing in English, which is part of what I do now as
That's
a
right.
nursing consultant. So it starts way back there. So we Bulldogs, Carl Schurz. That's where I
it.
went to high school at.
Well, for those of you that know, I don't usually do this, but I have to give a shout out to Whitney Young. We were not Bulldogs, we were Dolphins and our Dolphins, but that is A-okay. Tell me when you first had the notion that you were interested in nursing.
Oh, let me tell you about that. So my mother's a nurse. You're a soror.
Yes.
Sigma Gamma Rho.
Yes.
She's a
Yes.
nurse. And we grew up watching her working and going to school. And I remember when she was an LPN. And this is before they had bridge programs. And she went to school for RN. And we went to the graduation. So Carl Schurz High, back when I went to high school, I'm class of 91, they had an LPN program in the school. The high schools had nursing programs for anybody who wanted to be a nurse. And, they came out with all this skill. So, of course, I didn't want to do that.
No, because my mama doing that, so
I
I
didn't want
don't
to
want
do
to do
that.
that.
I didn't want to do that. I ain't trying to be no nurse. She was telling me, you need to join this program. They see what you don't see. Parents see what you don't see. But I did not join the program in high school. I was so adamantly opposed. Then the counselors told her, if they don't really want to do it, don't make them do it. So when I decided I was going to be a nurse, I was a grown woman. grown woman. I had already had my first child, my son. And I was like, I think I need to do this I don't want to live like a pauper. I don't want to be struggling with this one kid just because I got a baby. I don't want to do that. I'm smart enough to do this. Let me go do that. So that's what I did. I went to Harry S. Truman College, by the way. And oddly enough, during my clinicals, I ran into one of the young ladies I went to high school with that went to the LPN program, and she was the boss of where I was doing my clinicals with. And she
Oh,
was younger than
wow.
me. So I'm like, wow, see, I probably should have did what you did.
Yeah, you got caught out there, but who hasn't? Who
I
hasn't
probably should have
said,
done what you did.
whose mama hasn't said, see, I told you.
Well,
You made that bed, now you got to lie in and make it up when you get up again. So when you made that decision, was there a financial aspect about it for you? Was it a love of the healing attributes that are given to nurses? Was it the excitement of the ER? What was it about nursing at that point that made you say, I'm going to change my mind, I'm going to go into this career?
taking care of people. It really was taking care of people. This is a service that I can do every day. This is a humanitarian effort that I can do every day. I'm taking care of people and I'm taking care of their families. So I learned in my career that the families are, they're your customers too. They're your patients too. You have to take care of them just like you take care of that person lying in that bed. So, of course, the person in the bed is the priority, but you cannot disregard a mother when her child is lying in that bed.
Yes.
You cannot disregard grown children when their mom or their father is over here dying. You can't disregard the family. And the bigger reason, if people have noticed maybe in the last few years, that people get well, people have been living longer. So who's going to take care of these people with the different functioning? Daddy don't walk like he used to. He need a walker. Mama don't eat like she used to. We got to kind of help feed her. So who are we talking to about that? Their daughters,
Yes.
their siblings, maybe some cousins. We're talking to family about how can you help us help your relative, live the best life that they can live. One of the definitions I learned in school was that health is not merely the absence of illness or infirmity. So that means you can have a medical diagnosis, but you can still live healthy. You can still live your best life because part of that living is you control and manage whatever diagnosis they've given you, and you want to be at the best function. And part of that, you definitely can't get a person at their best function without involving their family.
Let me stop you there as I want to go a particular direction. A lot of careers, from my vantage point now, are attractive due to the demand and the money that is made. But as I've told people that know me know that both of my parents were educators. But that was a part of who they were. That was a part of their passion. They loved being teachers. When my son was coming through school, contrary to myself, I saw a lot of people that were in front of the classroom, but they were not teachers. And because they lacked that passion for it. That was not their calling, but it was a paycheck, and it was a substantially good one compared to whatever else it was they thought they were going to do. In nursing, it is not, to me, on the outside looking in, an easy occupation. You are encountering not just sick patients, but sometimes irate family members,
Absolutely.
sometimes lazy co-workers. I mean, a lot of stuff that goes on. How do you, as someone who is passionate about it and has the calling, how do you manage those different facets of nursing that aren't always the nicest?
Just like you said, it ain't easy. It's not an easy career. I can't knock nobody for picking a career because of how much money it bring in. I can't knock them for that if that's what you pick it for. But there are certain careers that you do have to have a passion for, because the fact that you make a check won't help you hurdle those obstacles during the day.
And listen, I'm all about getting paid. Don't misunderstand me. I don't
Right,
want you
I
out here
am.
working for free. But I am saying that
Right.
it's it's a lot more difficult to do something if you don't love it when it comes with some things that are challenges.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I believe you find that in every facet of working. If you're in the workforce out here, because I did other things before I became a nurse, there are days when it's really rough because where you're coming from.
Sure.
And then there are days where your coworkers and the task ahead makes it difficult. But what we've been talking about a lot in nursing is reflective practice and self-reflection. So reflective practice is exactly that. Get yourself together before you go out the door. Have your mindset and your behavior ready before you leave to get into your car to even go to the unit. So you wanna have that self-awareness, because that's what it was called when I was in nursing school. They've
Okay.
changed it to EI, emotional intelligence,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
reflective practice. You want to have yourself together before you step out, and you want to have yourself together before you step on that unit, because you're going to be bringing all of your emotion with you to practice. So if you get yourself together, get your head together, get your behavior together, your mindset will help you hurdle those obstacles, because there are going to be obstacles during the day. You can have irate family members, but this is where your training and your education comes in. That family member is irate because his mama died. This woman is irate because we just told her baby got a disease that we ain't got no cure for. So of course they're going to be upset and irate. But our job, you don't return irate energy to someone who has an ill family member that you're taking care of. You explain to them what's going on, and our job is to help comfort them, help educate them, give them the knowledge so that they get a better understanding of what's going on. And now, we can offer assistance. We have counseling for family members in hospitals.
Okay.
There's therapy. There is, we have something called the family meeting, which in the beginning, when I started this, these things were not happening. Family members can call a meeting with the social worker, the therapist, the doctor, the nurse, any other consulting doctor that's taking care of their family member. I think that is such a plus, such a rise for the healthcare system with all of the other things that go on. The fact that you can come in there and say, listen, I don't understand what's going on with my mom, my dad, my son, my daughter. I need y'all to come and talk to me.
And they talk.
And they do. And there was a time where people were complaining about doctors are not spending enough time with them, talking to them, explaining to them. Make them do it. Make them do it. That's what you have to do. You have to bring it up and say, look, I don't understand this. You need to talk to us. And they will do it. But there's a lot of things in place in the hospitals that they're going to make sure everybody who needs to talk to you, pulling coattails and reminding them who they work for. So, you need to do this. It's part of what you're supposed to do, first of all. It's part of the job. So, originally, how do I get past those difficult days? reflective practice. I get my head together before I walk out the door. And I remember that I'm a leader. People are following me. I set the tone. When I get in there, a lot of times I'm charging a supervisor, manager. I set the tone. If I come in there with a bad attitude, it's going to trickle downhill. You know, they say that trickles downhill. But
Absolutely.
if I come in there with the attitude of resolution and that we can get through it, you'll be surprised how that bounces off everybody and it makes the day go a little bit easier or a lot of it easier.
When we look at nursing now, especially post pandemic, because that to me changed a lot. Explain what it is when, give me 1 second.
Okay.
This technology, I tell you, is something. This technology is something.
We got a lot of
Explain
that
a
in
lot of
nursing and
that. My
healthcare too that people
goodness.
figuring out.
What are now the different levels, so to speak, of nursing? I know when I was younger, you had the CNAs, you had the LPNs, you had the RNs. I'm not sure if those are still even the correct terms anymore, but how many different levels of nursing are there, and what levels of education do we need to have to achieve those levels of nursing?
So we still have certified nurses assistants, and they were all originally called CNAs. And depending on what facility you're in, they might be called techs. You know, they give them different names.
Okay.
Their level of education is non-licensed. So they are there, their support for the nurses. You still have licensed practical nurses. Those are your LPNs. They're still around, they're licensed. You have registered nurses, which is what I am. We're licensed. So on the hierarchy, you got RN, LPN, CNA. Now CNAs, they don't pass meds or anything like that. They're very much supporting us and supporting patient care. You know, that's the person that they're bringing the trays, they're giving the baths, they're letting us know when something's going on with the patient. You know, they know the patients. So, you know, he's not breathing right, his skin doesn't look right. They're alerting us to those things. For us, LPN, RN, we're licensed, we're contacting doctors. There are certain things that each one of us can do, certain things LPN can't do, things that RNs can do. But in the scope of it, you know, we're all there to work together.
For the LPNs, is that an associate's degree?
I don't know. They don't. I don't believe they get associate degrees. They have programs
Okay.
for licensed practical
So it's a
nurses.
certification process.
It's a process. It's a program, and they still are licensed by whatever state they're working in to practice nursing.
Okay.
So for education, if you're talking about education, like with registered nursing, there's associate degree, there's a baccalaureate degree, there's a master's degree, and they even have DNPs, doctorate in nursing practice, if you wanted to go
Wow.
that far with your practice.
And when we looked at, because I sat back in the pandemic because I was what was called an essential employee. So I was
Yes,
going to
yes.
work. And I knew that there were people in law enforcement like myself at the time. There were people in nursing and doctors that were also under that banner. I saw I don't know if it was new or if it was just new to me, but the definite increase in traveling nurses, because there were places where nursing was just like, hey, we are down, we are short, people are resigning, people are retiring because COVID had, in some cases, just had become too much and psychologically overwhelming, or just, I've been in this for 35 years and this is the Lord's way telling me it's time to go, whatever people said. What do traveling nurses do that is different outside? I mean, the travel itself, but what do they have to become traveling nurses?
So, like you said with COVID, so that pandemic took a lot of people out of work. The field of nursing was already short. We were already very short before the pandemic hit. So now when the pandemic hit, they were calling people out of retirement to come back and work. They were asking folks, who all hands on deck for that. So the pandemic also, we lost a lot of nurses during the pandemic. They lost their lives taking care of ill
Absolutely.
people. They lost their lives taking care of people with COVID. And then a lot of them, they had to take care of their families. Family members were ill with COVID. So some of them retired. Unfortunately, we lost some of them. And for traveling nurses, of course, because the pandemic was worldwide, it wasn't just in the United States, it wasn't just in this city. The traveling nurses go from city to city, state to state, assisting or working on these floors and in the hospitals whatever way they can. Depending on what state you were going to determines what you needed. Some states have something we call reciprocity, where the license you have is fine. Other states, you have to take their board exams. You have to take their nursing board exams, get a license in that state to work in that state. So a lot of the agencies that were sending us all over the place, they help take care of some of that. They help
Okay.
take care of some of that. So traveling nursing is really huge now. Even post
Yes.
pandemic, a lot of nurses are like, I don't want to, they don't want to settle at one hospital. They don't want to settle at one full time job. They like the idea of traveling. And during the pandemic, if you're talking about money, you got paid maybe 2, 3 times the amount of money you got paid working as a full-time employee. But that was an all hands on deck situation. They needed people, and now you're asking me to uproot myself from my home to come and stay with you 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. People still in the states they were traveling in, even though they might have come from a different state years later. So the money was really great. You were talking about that. The
Yes.
finance was really great, but for what they were asking us to do,
It was deserving
I think it absolutely deserving.
because I'll give my personal story. My father was ill, and at the time he had already been diagnosed with colon cancer. And we were at Advocate Trinity.
Hmm.
And to this moment, I can't tell you what I said to the nurse. But when she walked out, and she wasn't nasty or anything, she responded and she was calm. My father said, "Don't talk to her like that, Rhea." And I said, "What did I say?" He said, "It wasn't what you said, it was your tone." He said, "And she didn't deserve that." But like you said, I was so frustrated with my lack of understanding of what he was going through. And I was so worried about his life, his literal life, that I wasn't cognizant of how I came off. And so when I think of that time and I thought of how she responded in a way that was not, she didn't even acknowledge my wrongdoing. She did her job despite that. And so when I think about income, I think about her. And I think about she could have, like you said, met me energy for energy, even if mine wasn't intentional. That doesn't change the outcome because it was still harsh and it would have been a brawl. For what?
We need to
We don't
have
have to
no
do that.
brawl in the hospital.
Right, rolling on the floor. But when we think of certain careers, and nursing is one of them, a lot of people feel like it's justified to just dump on nurses emotionally, just snap off because of your frustration. And like I said, I get the frustration. I've been there, but it isn't. And so, in your time as a nurse, how long were you actually in the hospital setting?
Oh my goodness, I've been in the hospital setting for about 20 years, and I've been a nurse over 20 years. After 20, I stopped counting, but I've been in the hospital setting the entire time. There was a time where I held down like two jobs.
Oh my goodness. So you were
So I'd be in
doing
the
it.
hospital, nursing home, hospital, home health. I've done a lot. But with everything you're saying, when we look at professionalism and integrity, I find that those things are missing in the workplace. I find that those things are missing in the hospitals. I find that nursing is missing the professionalism and integrity. Probably due to the way, a lot of places are just throwing them to the wolves, as we say. They don't get the training, just get out there and do it. They need the training. One of the reasons I started the business that I have in educating. So when you're a nurse, you're going to wear many hats. You're an advocate, you're an educator. Um,
A
you're
caregiver.
you're a caregiver, you're passing meds, you're a mediator, because we do a lot of working between physician, family, social worker, therapist. All of it runs through us. Everything that happens run through us. And I believe that the hospital setting has worked better in including everyone, every discipline, I should say, something we call collaborative practice, which
Okay.
we've been doing it all the time anyway. Excuse me. But now they've labeled it interdisciplinary collaborative practice. So that's when the social worker, the therapist, the doctor, the dietitian, everybody sits down and discusses a treatment or care plan for this patient. And those give you a very high reliability result. You get great results when everybody sits down and talks about what's best for this patient, what's best for this person. So, what I do, I go into facilities and teach them how to do that. How the best way to have your staff make sure that you all stay with your high reliability result. Make sure that you all are passing your accreditations, that you are passing your surveys and inspections. That's important. You can't you can't really make it as a facility without some of those things, and their funding is dependent on those things.
Now, see, you slipped that in really smoothly without even telling the name of your
My
business.
the name of my business is Goodman Nursing and Clinical Consultants. We consult on accreditation, inspection, chart auditing, and educating your staff to make sure you all give the best patient care that you can within your quality improvement goals.
Now, I have to say, I wish everybody's hospital, everybody's environment that deals with nursing would utilize you, because so often we are so insulated and we're so in our own little space and we've been doing things this way for so long that we don't realize that there's a new improved way, a better way, a different way to do this, and b, it's usually not that hard to be trained to do the new, better, and improved model, but nobody does it. And then in some cases you have interstaff issues where people are in positions of management that aren't necessarily trained to be managers, because I could be a wonderful, falling back on my old career, probation officer, but not the best supervisor,
Mm.
because my strength may have been in my relating to probation clients, not in managing staff issues while they are dealing with probation clients. So sometimes you have people in positions that need to know really what is the job. Firstly, not because you're not the same as a nurse supervisor as you are as a nurse. There's a difference. You're responsible for people that are not necessarily laying in that bed. That's your secondary response, because you're dealing with the staff that's dealing with those people. So I applaud you for even that undertaking, because so often we don't know what we're doing in the space we're doing it in under the banner that we're doing it.
I agree with you. And, I ran into that a lot in my career. But what I found out is when I got on the other side of the table is um, we're all part of the same machine. We're all wheels, part of the same machine. We just reach those results differently. So
Hmm.
it is very important for managers to keep rapport with their employees and their staff, because those are the people taking care of your patients. And more over time, people have acknowledged that. When at one point it's like you just rule like a dictator, that never works. It barely even works in the countries where they have dictators. That doesn't work on a unit or as a manager or a director. Things work better when your staff can come to you to even tell you that some things aren't the way they should be, or some things aren't could go better. And when they know that you are willing to listen to them and listen to their ideas and listen to what's going on, because that's how you're going to know what's going on your floor. You're talking to your employees. But managers have they have a different set of priority, which they should, because if they're falling down on their job, what is it going to do for the people that are working under them?
It's going to be a hot mess
It's
all
going to be a
around.
hot mess all around. So everybody has to do the job they came to do so that everyone's result and work is wonderful. The biggest thing with what we do is patient care. We want to make sure that we're giving our patients the best care and giving their family our professionalism and our integrity. That's what's most important. I believe in any job you're going to find some people that you might feel, damn, they don't really need to be a manager. I don't really think. But until you've actually had those jobs, you don't understand the priority or difficulty or challenges of those positions. I knew a lot of young women who, when I was a wound care nurse, oh, those nurses, they were kind of rough on us. Y'all don't do nothing. You come around here and do a couple of people's wounds, and we running around here all day. When some of them became wound nurses, they came back to me to apologize for that attitude.
Because now you know.
Now you know. Now you see what it's not just me pushing a cart around, cleaning wounds, slapping on wounds. It's a lot of documentation. It's a lot of knowing what the appropriate treatment for this appropriate wound or skin integrity is. It's not just you run, slap on something and leave out and go to the next. So that you get a much better comprehension of those things.
Speaking of that, because in nursing, there are like I said, not just those titles of CNA, LPN, RN, etc., but like you said, there are specialties. Like a wound
Yes.
nurse is a specialty.
It is.
When we think of nursing, we don't think of specialties. We just think of the one that's working the hospital floor where I was. That's all we think. What other spaces are nurses in? Because you said something earlier, and I'm like, I don't even know if people recognize that in senior living, assistant living spaces, there are nurses.
There are nurses. There has to be nurses. You can't run these facilities without nurses. There has to be a nurse in the building, on the floor, in the unit. It has to be. It's nursing is one of the fields where it's so many things you can do. You can be a school nurse. You can work at a
Mhm.
clinic, and that clinic could be anything. GI clinic, which is gastroenterology, or everything with the stomach and the intestine. That's one clinic. You could work in the cardiology clinic. That's everything to do with the heart. You can work on the cardiology unit. You can work in behavioral health, which is the psychiatric unit, which I have a lot of experience there too. And with all of the attention and acknowledgement about mental health in the recent years, which I'm so happy about, that people have realized that it's okay to go to therapy.
Absolutely.
It's okay to go to counseling. It's okay to take meds if that's what you have to do to keep yourself above ground and living. It's okay to do. So there's so many things you could do with nursing. So many.
There's also, and I learned this again in my prior life, nursing staff at recovery centers. Folks are not just walking in there and there's a therapist and you withdrawn and going through all that and nobody's there to take care of you. There are nurses that do this. There are nurses, and I'm saying this because I want people to understand that the nursing industry is not just vast, it's so necessary and so integral in places that we don't even consider. I didn't I didn't think about a nurse being at the rehab center until I went in there and saw that there were people that were sick, that were detoxing, and
Yes.
people didn't understand they could die without medical assistance. There are psychiatric spaces where there are nurses that have to be there to do medication dispensing. There are children in schools, which I know a lot of. Hey, if you are in a school system that does not have a full-time nurse, you need to have that conversation, because there are things that happen in school all the time, and from someone falling, hitting their heads, to breaking limbs, to having an illness, diabetes, a condition that needs someone in case something goes wrong. The food allergies. And I'm just not comfortable. I guess I would have to get comfortable quickly if somebody needed an EpiPen injection, but I would really rather there be a nurse there to take care of that. So there are so many different spaces in which nursing is woven in the fabric so closely sometimes that we don't even recognize that you're there.
That is the truth, because you cannot run those things without a nurse. You cannot have those things without a nurse. If every nurse walked out, those facilities would shut down, because you have to have a nurse to dispense the medications. You have to have a nurse to know the treatment plans and symptoms that you need to call the doctor for, or to where I need to start an IV for. When you were talking about addictions, people people don't understand that when folks are going through withdrawals, it can be a life-threatening thing. It can be a life-threatening thing. They can have seizures. People have died going through that phase. So you have nurses and physicians there to help take care of those symptoms through those phases, so that you're not seizing, so that your body's not going into any type of shock.
Right.
There are nurses everywhere, nurses in the school, nurses in the rehab facilities where they do physical therapy, occupational therapy. You have to have them there. Definitely in this state, you can't run those facilities without nursing.
And something I want to say, because it's a lovely concept that we're going to be here forever and be here forever and healthy, but that's dicey. That's a maybe.
The forever
You
part or
the
the healthy part?
well, we know the forever part is not
Okay,
happening, but the
that's the
healthy
part.
part is a maybe, maybe not. One of the things I learned, because one of my best friends is in the nursing industry, in the field, is the in-home care nursing system, which I don't remember 30 years ago, at least not to the degree that I see it now, because you have people that are well enough to be at home, but still are in need of assistance as far as making sure the medications are handled, making sure the wounds are cleaned,
Yes.
uh, getting these patients to their doctor's appointments, or calling the doctor in. There's so many different facets of nursing that now have to appreciate, because I promise you, it's not the job for me. It is not the job for me, and I am so grateful to those people that can do it and stand on it and love it, or even just like it enough to do it right, because it's a lot of pressure. How do nurses, what's the word I'm looking for? Decompress from all what they see, because to see all that illness, to see that some of them don't make it, it's still hard. So what do nurses do to not take that home with them every day?
I first of all, let me thank you for the accolades you gave us. That's we are necessary and important and vital, and the majority of us really love what we do. The way we decompress is the way anyone should decompress. You find a hobby, you find an outlet that works for you. If exercising every day is the outlet for you, then that's what you should do. If reading books, going out with your friends, painting, that's what you should do. It's important to have a hobby as an outlet, or some sort of activity as an outlet, so that it's not always you're going to sleep and getting back up, going to work, going to sleep and getting back up, going to work, because it is a high stress field. So if it's one of those fields where there is pressure and stress, there's a lot of it, because like you said, sometimes we're doing everything we can to save our patients, and then we lose them anyway, not through any fault of our own, just through the fact that that's just how ill this person is. So it's important, everybody to have a hobby or an activity that, you have that outlet of release. For me, I'm running on that treadmill 30 minutes, but I want to get small too. So that's also the reason I'm doing it.
Right.
But it's
We
right
have a
there
trip at
for
the end of the
me.
year that we got to be together
We got to
for.
be very together for.
Yes.
But it's the thing is that I have that at home for me. Because, when the pandemic hit, mental health, mental illness shot through the roof because now you can't even get outside.
Right.
And for a lot of people, not being able to go outside puts them in a depression or a blue funk, is what I call it. So for me, I have my equipment at home and I can use it. But I really do enjoy going out. I enjoy walking my dog because it gets me outside. For me, that's how I decompress. I believe the best way, though, is your mindset. Have a workable mindset in the beginning before the negative thing happens, because that's going to help you holistically.
And navigate those waters.
You navigate those waters, you navigate your feelings. It doesn't mean that sometimes you won't get angry, but what we teach our patients, our coworkers in behavioral health about being angry and having emotion, it's not that you're angry, it's not that you're frustrated. You can feel that way. It's how you behave when you feel that way. You can't go around punching people and punching walls. That's not going to work for you all the time. It don't work anyway. And I understand it feel good, when
No, it
you done
doesn't. All
got
you
all that
doing is
anger
cracking your
off.
hand.
That's what we do with the punch in the wall. You're hurting yourself, but the release is what it is.
Right.
They release this anger and this frustration, but that's the wrong way to do it. So we teach people that it's how you navigate your emotions, how you behave, how you release those emotions. Those things are important for what we teach patients and for people. Everything for me, everything that we do in nursing has to do with the type of person you are. To me,
Mhm.
for me, to do this kind of work and to be a good person at work, you need to be a good person. That's just the bottom line. You need
And
to be a
that's
good
just
person.
it.
You need to have the understanding of service and helping, which is what Goodman Nursing and Clinical Consultants do. We're going to give you all the appropriate understanding to audit your charts, to have the appropriate documentation, to take the best care of your patients.
With that, I want you to do two things. I want you to tell how any individual, company, etc., can reach you because they need to have you come in there and help them assess their systems objectively. And then, two, I want you to speak really quickly about your other career. You know what I'm talking about?
My speaking?
Yes.
Yes, of
Yes.
course. So I have a website. It's Goodman Nursing and Clinical Consultants. Goodman, Goodman, Nursing and Clinical Consultants. You go to that website. We can do discovery calls. There's assessments. You fill in your information, and we'll be back in touch with you. My other career of speaking, I've been speaking since I was a kid, and it started in church. I have to give. I grew up in the Church of Christ. So we had a very active youth program, and they had us speaking on stage to the church. They had us speaking on stage for competitions, the youth group thing. I've been doing it a long time. I've been doing it a long time. So now, as a nurse and educator, I've spoken at symposiums. I have spoken at facilities where we're bringing in new orientees. I've spoken at colleges to talk to new nursing students or even to get them interested in being a part of this field. So it's truly something that is a part of me and it's in my heart. And you can also request me for speaking or any of our consultants by going to Goodman Nursing and Clinical Consultants. So
Because let's tell the audience that's how we met in a speakers training program. And I was looking for an accountability partner, and Dee responded. And because we both live in the Chicagoland area, it seemed like a good fit. And then when we spoke, it was like we had known each other forever.
It was like we've known each other for years. So many similarities. You Sigma Gamma Rho. I'm like, my mama Sigma Gamma. You like, I know your mother.
Yes. Yes,
But
I
we didn't
do.
know that when we were in the
No.
program.
No,
So
we
yeah,
were
it was
just
not an accident, as I tell you all the
no.
time. This
It,
was not a coincidence that our paths crossed.
so for those of you who are looking for a speaker, even for your schools for career day, you have her here.
Yes, you do.
For those of you who have those businesses that deal with nursing on any level, and you want to make sure that you're actually operating on the standard level that you think you are, because sometimes we think we're doing one thing and we're not quite hitting the mark.
We're not quite, and we have markers.
Yes.
IDPH give us markers, JACO give us markers, magnet status give us markers.
All of
I
that.
will help you operate on the highest level for those systems.
Then you need to reach out, because one of the obviously most important careers out here for humans, I know people are into AI and all that, and that's
Yes,
wonderful.
yeah.
But I want a really alive nurse to come and tell me what's going on with my loved one. I mean, the doctor is wonderful, but understand that the doctor comes in, looks at you really fast, and then writes on the chart, and he's out of there. And I'm being facetious a little bit, but the person you're going to spend much more time with is your nursing staff.
That's the truth.
And so
That's the truth.
I want them to not just get the recognition that they deserve, but for those that are interested in the field, here you have someone. Those of you that want to improve or just check your system, here we go. And for those that are interested, ask her, because she can tell you, as I say, we can talk about taking the sheets off the bed and talk about this dirty mattress.
That's right. We can
what it
definitely do
is.
that. We can definitely do that.
So with that, thank you so much, Dee, for coming out here with me today as we are sitting in on the Drive at 5, guest hosting and just being a guest for the phenomenal Roman Morrow. And I will be here in Roman's chair again next Monday with a new guest, a new excitement with our conversation. But until then, peace and blessings in the name of Jesus. Stay safe, because these streets out here can be rough sometimes.
They can be rough sometimes. Thank you for having me. Have a good day, everyone.